Yeah, definitely going to be interesting. I expect French is probably going to go double scout this here as well. I mean, that's what happened in the Dry Arabia game, right? We saw it was French versus Delhi. Sorry, French Delhi versus Rus English. So the Civs matchup isn't that much different. We substitute the two Ottomans for English and Delhi, but their playstyles are very similar, right? English masters archers, Ottomans masters archers, Delhi masters archers, Ottomans masters archers. So could be a similar kind of playstyle matchup here. Um, we'll have to see how it turns out.
We just have 30 seconds left to go. This is another best of 5 over here. We do have a single elimination bracket, but the sets are slightly longer than usual. So even in the round of 16th, we do have a best of 5. It leaves a little bit more room for error and a little bit more room for recovery. But once again, this is a single elimination bracket, so you lose this set, you're out. If you win, it also means that you are in the top 8 already, and that means that you've qualified for next weekend.
Yeah, it's a great format, I think. It is a single elimination, but given it's a best of 5, right? So if you do lose a best of 5, you probably should be out. Um, anyway, we get into games
That's
here.
harsh. It's like you lose and you should be out.
Well, it's you lost, a best of 5, so it's yeah. At some point, you have to accept that the opponent's probably better than you, and you have to move on with the tournament.
All right, we got a couple more seconds of wait before we jump into this set. We have 2 more sets coming up after this one here at Afreeca TV. Again, huge shout out goes to Afreeca TV for sponsoring this event. This is the first time that EGC TV makes an event on this platform. And so far, we've been treated with some spectacular games. Hopefully, that tendency will continue on to the rest of the sets today, and of course, the ones that are coming up tomorrow and the next weekend.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it myself. It's going to be a lot of good games and a lot of fun.
All right, game is ready to go in a matter of seconds. Ottomans and Rus versus the French and the Ottomans. It is going to be Dry Arabia, as classic as it gets. The first map is always going to be preset in each of those rounds, so we will see Dry Arabia as game number 1 for all of the sets being played in the round of 16th. We're jumping into game number 1, as we will have, apparently, no spec UI.
Oh,
They forgot it? That would be sad. That would
did
be
they?
very, very sad, actually. Let's see if we can hear from the admins, but with that, let's try to figure out who is who.
Oh, yeah, we actually cannot see that, can we? That's I'm trying to figure out who's who, but they're just mining stone, so it's a little bit difficult.
Well, if you mine stone in Dark Age,
Oh,
it's gonna be
there
the
we go.
Ottomans. But yeah, we're just
RecoN.
gonna ask Vodka to open up the top left panel for us, so we do have the resources comparable.
Okay, RecoN is the Brew Ottomans, and Matiz is the Teal Roof Sprout.
Looks like we're also losing a couple of frames. Okay, there we go. Frames still recovering, but we do have indeed RecoN and Matiz playing as the cold colors, teal and blue. And on the other side, we are going to have Knusch and ZertoN playing as the red and purple.
Yep, and the first thing I always look at when I play French is where's your gold mine, and ZertoN has a front gold mine, so probably not too happy about that, but RecoN is also on the other side of the map, so the Spearman won't be coming to his base too quick.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to look at. Now, one of the things I am taking a look at right now is the southern part of the map. The 2 Ottoman players are matched up against each other, and the French and the Rus are situated against each other on the north. Naturally, when it comes to the spearmen that come out from RecoN, you want to hit the French player. Kind of the same applies for the spearmen of Knusch, but it's going to be difficult to hit Matiz because when you look at the Rus base at the beginning, you don't have gold miners, villagers on food are under the TC, and your lumberjacks are also safe. So you have that feeling that the spearmen from RecoN could do a lot more damage than the ones from Knusch.
Yeah, and that is the sort of advantage of playing Rus here, right? You are a little bit more defensive early game. You do have the knight disadvantage in the mid game, but if you can utilize your early game advantages, you should be in a better position. We'll have to see if RecoN can do damage with those family against the French Pro. Especially considering that, ZertoN and Noosh know that, right? They're probably going to be on the more defensive side with these spearmen.
Yeah, it looks like indeed we're just going to have a defensive play from Knusch. He's going to send his spears to the side of ZertoN. Will kind of mean that he will have the numbers advantage over RecoN, given that RecoN has to walk a lot more throughout the map. As we will have quite a few sheep secured over here for Matiz. It's going to be a nice little start for him. Something that's often awkward with the Ruse, you just focus so much on the bounty. Wait a second, hold the phone. We have the Golden Gate coming up.
Right? I actually think it's slightly better in 2v2s than 1v1s, especially considering there's more map, right? So the Kremlin doesn't cover as much as the map as it would in a 1v1 as it does in 2v2. So not that surprising, but interesting play. Something I think may actually be utilized to even go second TC if they decide to do that. So we'll have to watch out if Matiz decides to go double TC or not.
Look at that. RecoN is just pulling back his own spears as well. He's realizing that he cannot really do much against Knusch on the northern part, or against ZertoN actually. Knusch defending him. Let's take a toll at the bounty though. It looks like we will cross the 250 mark just now for Matiz. But in a 2v2 setting, that's not spectacular by any means. You do have a lot more hunt to work with. So you feel like this is a bit of a lackluster bounty for a player playing in a 2v2 setting.
Yeah, you definitely expect to hit that 250 mark. Not sure like what the average would be, but I would think like 300, maybe 350 would be like ideal for you. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see if that does hit that mark. I would almost expect RecoN to maybe even bring Spearman to the Ottoman base, knowing that Knusch has his defensive Spearman on the French as well. Would be curious if RecoN's doing that, but it looks like he's just playing defensive with his in the meantime.
Let's talk about that Golden Gate though, because ever since the buff has happened to the Kremlin, even though it was nerfed a little bit for Season 5, ever since that buff has happened, Kremlin was the dominant landmark for the Rus. That kind of happened at a very similar time when the TCs were changed so that you couldn't just buy yourself a TC that easily with the Golden Gate. What do you think is the game plan here using that Golden Gate for Matiz?
Well, I think it just gives him a lot more options, right? If he does have an issue with gold, you can buy gold. If he wants to get stone, you can buy stone. I think it's more of a long-term play. Like I said, 2v2s, there's a bigger map. Kremlin doesn't cover as much as the map as it would in 1v1s, so you're not losing out on as much as you are in a 1v1 setting. And of course, Season 5 did nerf the Gremlins, so that you're not getting them out as quick as you are, so there's not as much as an opportunity cost not going to Kremlin as there was the previous patch.
Yeah, looks like there will be a mining camp placed down by RecoN on the stone. It's going to work towards the second military school out there. First knights are out, and it looks like ZertoN is going to be the aggressor. Matiz has to pull away the villagers from the gold.
Yeah, and that's like sort of where the Golden Gate comes in, probably because the gold is exposed at the moment. Maybe he buys the 150 gold, but yeah, he should be able to secure this up in a bit. Don't want to lose that scout though. Oh, he should lose that, right? Yep.
Knights are now moving in from ZertoN. Once again, Matiz has to pull away those villagers. It doesn't feel like it's much, but when you add up all that idle time, it is going to matter, right?
Oh, 100%, especially considering French should get that villager production bonus, right? And Rus, while they do have the extra food gather rate and the wood gather rate, this villager idle time is drastically reducing how much you're gathering, so very, very good by ZertoN so far.
And that's part of the difference between the French and the Rus here, right? You're the aggressor with the French. Once you have chivalry, you can all heal all these knights up as well. And again, it's the same thing. And I love how ZertoN is playing, because I don't know about you, but ZertoN, he's not going bloodthirsty here. He doesn't want to kill those villas. He's satisfied with just idling them.
Yeah, I really like it as well. And just idling them, right? You're going to have the knight advantage. And we actually see, like, is that 5 Sipahi from RecoN? So he's actually going very heavy cav, not something I was expecting, right? I was expecting more an ultra-heavy focus, but RecoN is an interesting cryo, and he's very good, so I'm sure he knows what he's doing, but
Yeah,
they're going to be
it's a
playing a
double
heavy
calf
cav
play.
comp.
There is no method to buff these Sipahi with, but they're still faster than Knights, so they could get a good surround. And if they do, those Knights will be history. But this also kind of leaves the base of RecoN wide open, and this is a weakness that Knusch could exploit.
Okay, yep. We haven't seen any pro invest into a double TC yet, which is not surprising, but French, given that they have that knight advantage, could have went into it. Although they are losing a few knights here as well, right?
Yeah, but there's a raid on the gold mine. Looks like spears and knights will repel this, but the idle time is mounting up here for Matiz, and it requires both Matiz and RecoN to secure that gold mine for the time being. And this allows a nice low push from Knusch. He's got the Meteor out there, he's mixing in some spears, and given that the opponent only has cavalry, that army looks scary.
Oh, yeah, very scary. And that's the thing, right? Noosh could probably mix in some spearmen, and his comp is going to be very, very difficult for RecoN and Matiz to deal with, but I think he definitely needs to go into a more spearman-heavy comp now that he sees that they're going double cav. Probably doesn't want to lose that one. We do see a barracks added, but I feel like you could even add one more, right?
Yeah, look, he's basically playing a combination of spears and archers. It's the classic spear-archer combo, but he's facing so many of these Sipahis. That's the problem right now for him. Knights will clash with the Sipahi initially. The Meteor is out there to buff. It does not buff the Knights from ZertoN. Spearman doing a decent job shielding this, but you gotta be cautious here if you're Knusch and ZertoN. If you lose that infantry, your army will just evaporate in a second, and it's gonna be very difficult to build it up again, given that Knusch is using mostly just military schools for army production.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I would really like to see Noosh and ZertoN say, okay, they're going double cav, we need to play a little bit more defensive, get that spear mass up, and then I can push out a little bit, because you really don't want to get caught out with 1 or 2 spearmen, and just your entire army is going to get crewed because they have double cav, so you really need to get that spearman mass out before you start pushing again, in my opinion. And both RecoN and Matiz are actually going to raid, so this is going to be a lot of villager kills on both sides.
Yeah, you see on the north we do have Matiz sweeping in. To the south we do have a lot of those Sipahi coming in. They do intercept the villager as he was making the new military school. And that is free real estate, folks. Here come the Sipahi. Now they're buffed by a Meteor. Knusch will flee to the TC, keeps most of his villagers alive for the time being, but that's tremendous idle time. And the Sipahi will just disengage, might swing to the north to hit ZertoN. On the other side, though, the Spearmen will just directly push into the base. Chaos all over the map here, as basically everybody's just focusing the opponent's eco. Speaking of which, here comes a big raid with the Sipahis on the Hunters. A lot of idle time for ZertoN, fleeing with the Vills. You feel like there is more damage done here by RecoN's team, though, right?
I guess. It's very tough to know, right? I mean, they're getting a lot of villager kills here, right? Matiz and RecoN are both killing villagers. We are seeing the other side of the map at the moment, but yeah, they're not even into the TC, so I think you're right. They're double cav, right? So
yeah, on the other side, the archers have been harassing lumberjacks, but we didn't see many kills. On this side, we do have a lot of kills now, especially on the side of ZertoN, and that's alarming because when you lose that eco, you lose your ability to produce knights effectively. But there is retaliation coming in. Goldmine from Matiz will be hit to the north. He's once again going to have to flee from there. And I think he got away with most of the villagers. I don't see any dead bodies. Nice little reaction there from Matiz.
Yeah, Matiz and RecoN played very well, and it looks like RecoN's going to get a lot of gold villages if he can. No, doesn't get them, but again, a lot of idle time here for ZertoN. I think ZertoN is suffering the most in this exchange. I mean, the cav are just like surrounding ZertoN's base.
It's getting worrisome for ZertoN. He has lost a lot, and they didn't manage to retaliate. They couldn't pick off a single villager. They force some idle time, but that's not going to make it, especially if the Knights get a good surround.
Oh.
Beautiful micro there by Matiz. ZertoN is trying to flee for the towers, but it's coming a little too late, and this is just dead bodies of villagers littering the battlefield. This might be it, Wam.
No, this is very bad. This is like sharks surrounding like a carcass of ZertoN. Like, it's not looking very good for him. And cutting off like the Knight player's ability to produce it's gonna hurt them drastically.
Now the spies are moving in, trying to burn down some houses. They do get a beautiful surround on those Knights as well. And it's getting very worrisome for ZertoN. Replenishing those Knights will be next to impossible. And the Sipahi mass is just growing and growing. Now the army advantage is massively in the favor of the team from No, it's not ZertoN's team, actually. It's Matiz and RecoN who have a massive army advantage now.
Yeah, sorry, Matiz and RecoN have been playing this very, very well. They've been utilizing their cav advantage to very good. I mean, very well, right? I think if you're Knusch and ZertoN here, you have to play a lot more defensive than you did. Gonna be trying to get some return damage here, but I mean, Matiz building an Archer mass up as well, so might be able to defend this soon.
Yeah, this is a scary force over here, but it doesn't have a lot of support from Knights, and it doesn't have a lot of support from Spearmen, actually, until the second wave arrives. I think Matiz and RecoN might have a window to take a good fight over here. Tower now does have arrow slits. And look at that, we got a lot of archers, though. Those archers, they will be the difference makers. They will pick off the spears, and it looks like the Sipahi won't even come back to help. They just come in to push this base. They do take down a lot of production buildings very fast.
No, they have that active ability, right? So they're taking it down even faster than other ones. Yeah, this is very scary for Knusch. And these Sipahi are not going to be cleaned up easily. There's so many of them.
Yeah, he's focusing on the barracks, by the way. He's not even caring about the military schools, up until now at least. He started at the barracks, he's going to focus the barracks again. Just wants to make sure that it's difficult for Knusch to make those spears. And if there are no spears, there is nothing that stops their cavalry.
Yeah, and those, well, the military schools are really so expensive buildings. Yeah, that's going to be very detrimental to Knusch's production. Again, trying to get some return damage, but it's just not happening. Like, might get a few Vil picks here, but RecoN reacting very well.
Yeah, both RecoN and Matiz are very quick with their reactions on these aggressive pushes. The moment they see the army, they just pull away the Vils, and that's not easy to do when you keep microing cavalry on the other side of the map. So, one of the things that really distinguishes them from the other team in here is how effective they were preserving their ecos despite all this aggression coming from the other side.
Yeah, exactly. We saw ZertoN, for the most part, get very, very weak on his eco, and we just haven't seen that many Vil killers on the side of ZertoN and Knusch. Gonna have to take a fight here. I mean, even backing off from this fight, which they really need to win, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Knusch and ZertoN need something close to a miracle. They're both on 1 TCs, have lost a lot of production buildings if you're Knusch, lost a lot of eco if you're ZertoN, and the enemy army keeps growing. It's still a huge force of cavalry buffed by Metters. Now there are archers coming out from the Rus player that will be a response to your spears. Mobility advantage will be on the side of RecoN and Matiz. It's getting alarmingly difficult for Knusch and ZertoN.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we knew how many spy RecoN had, but it's a lot. It looks like 50 plus spy that are very scary. They're gonna surround like 10 knights, 42 spy. So yeah, they probably kill the knights at this point.
And they're fast. Those Sipahi, it's not just the fact that they can kill the knights, they can catch them, they can chase them, or they can run away if they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's playing so well with them. And Matiz is going to push ZertoN's base at the moment. And RecoN deciding to take the fight and see how this goes. Wow.
Yeah, I think at this point ZertoN knows that that is way too much for him to handle. They will need the spears, but this essentially means that the combined armies will be just enough to hold that off. And this opens up the alley for Matiz. He's moving into the north. Once again, he will idle the eco. And then there comes the mobility advantage against those knights and even the spearmen. these Sipahi will just keep running circles around you until they find an opening.
Yeah, and guys have to remember the spy got buffed in season 5, right? So they got more range, I think, and they got a few other stats as well. But they're stronger than they were last season. They cost a bit more, but I think the buff for them was very, very strong. Now the two armies are meeting behind ZertoN's base. Definitely an interesting spot for them to be.
Yeah, it feels like we're getting close to a decisive fight. We don't have a matter buff for all those Sipahi, and we do have the matter out there to buff the army of Knusch. This might be a closer fight than what we anticipated a couple of minutes ago. Archers will focus down the matter, though. The matter goes down. Archers now focusing the spearmen. And lovely micro here from RecoN and Matiz. They clean up most of the spears before the Sipahi engage. Now all the spearmen are gone, and now you can have the jump with the Sipahis on the archers. And it looks like ZertoN's Knights are just trying to clean up a couple of Lancers over here in the north, but the archers here from the Ottoman player about to get cleaned up possibly. Lovely move as well from the Sipahi to try and shield the archers from the Knights.
Yeah, it feels like this actually may not go bad for ZertoN's team, especially the Sipahi are kind of getting whittled down here. These Knights should be trading better. Well, as I say that, there's only a few Knights left, but
yeah, now the archers have no protection. Sipahis will just move in.
It's just the eco, right? Like
it is. It most definitely is. Not only the eco when it comes to the production, but also stacking up the resources. You see Matiz at the top left has got a huge resource bank. He's getting close to Castle Age, and when he gets to Castle Age, he can get the passive gold income from a high trade house. He can start securing relics. He's gonna get the upgrades for the archers, the knights. And now ZertoN's villagers are just idle here. So much damage has been done to their eco. In fact, ZertoN's got no functional food eco at this point.
I know. I've been looking at ZertoN's food eco, and it's been staying at like 49.90 for like a minute now. So I think he has those berries in the top left, but other than that, he has straight up no food eco. So he's just not even able to produce knights at this point.
And you see, RecoN is probing those sources of food. He's going to the berries or the former spot of those berries, the hunts, possibly even the boar, just checking out where ZertoN is at. And in the middle, we do have a bit of a scuffle here. Meter is out there to buff this one, but the Meter is actually mispositioned. It's on the front, and we could have a GG here. Indeed, we do. GG is called. Convincing game by RecoN and Matiz, playing the double cavalry composition and really leveraging that mobility element to gain a bit of an upper hand and then just snowball the game.
Yeah, and they did a great job at punishing ZertoN and Knusch for moving out. Look at the villager count. You just see ZertoN repeatedly losing a bunch of villages, and by the end of the game, he had no food eco. And RecoN, I think ZertoN decided to leave the game when RecoN found all of his food villages at the top. So, yeah, no opportunity for comeback in this game.
Yeah, it's so punishing, right? You play one TC French, you cannot afford to lose villagers. It's just near impossible for you to sustain the knight production if you do. And on the other side, Matiz, he had a lot of idle time on his villas. His initial gold mining operation was harassed frequently, but he never lost a single vill in there. Same goes for RecoN. There was a lot of harassment, but they never really lost vills.
Yeah, and that's the key to winning this game. They did a great job at not losing villages, and that pays dividends right on the game, right?
Indeed, we do have the first home map selected here for ZertoN and Knusch. They opt to go for Dry River. Civilizations have yet to be added. What do you think will be the choices here for either of these teams?
They have a lot of choices at this stage, considering it's the second map. You could play Mongols here. You could play Delhi. I think there's... I don't want to say H3 because I think H3 is probably going to be on Mountain Clearing. So if I had to guess, I would say Mongols, Delhi, English, and... yeah, I'm going to say those three civs in a different order on this map.
All right, folks, we're going to take a very short break over here as the players prep for the next game. We'll be back in a few minutes. be sure to grab yourself some snacks and refreshments. We will also use that little moment for us to get some more stamina going for this upcoming set, because we could be in for a long day here, especially myself, because, well, you're tuning out after this one, but we have still 2 more sets left to go, on which I will be joined by Beastie. We'll be back after a few minutes, and we'll continue on with game number 2. Welcome back, folks, to the EGCTV Afreeca Duos. Here we go. Game number 2 of ZertoN and Knusch versus RecoN and Matiz coming up. We do have Dry River, which is the first home map of ZertoN and Knusch. And the civilizations that they opted to go for will be the Mongols and the Delhi against the Chinese and the HRE. So, vastly different approaches taken by the two teams. Which of these combinations do you prefer? All right, now, big question to you, especially speaking of RecoN. When he played this map in the Elite Classic, he tried a Delhi trade. Could you see either of these teams considering an early trade? I would think that if there is any, it's likely going to be ZertoN and Knusch, but do you see that as a realistic option? Yeah, I would be surprised. I guess on that side, the bigger question is whether we see a fast Imperial from the HRE player. Chinese, it's pretty well established. You play into Song Dynasty, you play into 2 TCs very likely, maybe 3. We have seen that in a previous series. But with the HRE, you can take very differing approaches. Maybe a fast Imperial into a Palace of Schwabia and then just eco boom from there is something that could be considered. Or do you think that a different avenue should be taken by the HRE player?
Can't hear me?
Testing, testing. Should hear you now.
Can people hear me?
Yeah, apparently they can. Okay, we're all set.
I think Wham had some really good points.
I'm sure you made some great points, but yeah. Anyway, fast Imperial or no for HRE?
I think on this map, yeah, you could definitely try fast Imperial. It's, I mean, Mongols and Delhi are pretty aggressive civs, so they're gonna have to watch out for that. But it's definitely an option. Definitely an option.
All right. On the other side, we have the Delhi, we have the Mongols. You have a lot of early damage potential with the Mongols. You obviously will have an ability to secure map control with the Ghazi Raiders, secure the sacred sites. Mongols, they do have the Kurultai to move on with. Would be interesting to see whether Kurultai gets used in the mid game. Whereas on the other side, we see a lot more focus on eco-heavy civilizations, Chinese, HRE. And this also opens up an interesting point of discussion for the upcoming games. Hill and Dale is a map that you commonly associate with HRE and Chinese, at least one of the two. What do you think is going to be the choice there for RecoN and Matiz if we go there?
That is an interesting question. Maybe they tried trade, like Anatan and Dark did. Hill and Dale's a good trade map. They have Abbasid, they have Mongols available, so that might be what they're thinking of. I would actually not be surprised at all to see trade from RecoN and Matiz on that map.
All right, game number 2 is coming up, and we will have Chinese and the HRE against Mongols and the Delhi here. If ZertoN and Knusch lose this, their last remaining home map will be Mountain Clearing. It's going to be interesting to see how the Delhi and the Mongols synergize, especially given that we have very differing approaches taken here by the teams. RecoN and Matiz with the 1-0 lead as we head to Dry River. Any moment now. I mean, you always know when it starts. When you start hearing the sheep, that's when the game begins.
Yeah, but you're trying to predict it, and so that, you know, it happens as soon as you say any, like, as we go in or something, you know?
But yeah, looks like the countdown disappeared, so we'll have to hear about that. But anyway, one of the things that you should keep in mind is that, of course, this event is sponsored by Afreeca TV. Thank you so much for Afreeca for sponsoring this event, and thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in here to EGC TV on a new platform. We have 2 more sets to go after this one, and we will also have 4 sets from the round of 16th tomorrow. Every single set of this tournament is going to be at broadcast here at EGC TV on Afreeca. So stay with us, because there's a lot more 2v2 action coming your way.
Should be any moment now.
All right, here we go. Jumping into game number 2, we will have Matiz and RecoN playing as the cold colors with the HRE and the Chinese. On the other side, Knusch and ZertoN will have the Mongols and the Delhi. The map is Dry River, and we do see a very different pair of civilizations on the 2 teams. We've talked a lot about this in the pregame. It's going to be interesting to see how these 2 civilizations will synergize on either side of the map.
The first thing I notice as soon as we jump into this game is the tree lines. That is, I think, the closest tree line I've ever seen a TC spawn next to. RecoN doesn't even need to build a rumble mill, although he is China, so he probably wants to, but doesn't need to.
Yeah, it's an intriguing spawn, actually. 3 out of the 4 players have their TC spawn right next to the wood line. Now, obviously, Knusch is a bit of a wild card because he's Mongol, so his TC goes where he wants to. But when it comes to ZertoN, his TC is very close to the wood line, so it is for RecoN. It's a little bit further away from Matiz, actually. But he's got a nice Aachen Chapel spot, if I can see that well on the minimap. The gold, the forest, and the berries seem pretty close to each other, so there is a pretty decent spot for an Aachen Chapel.
Yeah, it is forward, but it's definitely a good spot. I'd probably place it there. We see Delhi going for fishing. Not a surprise, really, I think, on this map. It's good to get some control of the center. Of course, your fishing boats attack as Delhi, so, you know, you're not really, like, worried about the dock going down. So just getting that map control is nice as well.
Dark Age Barracks coming out here for RecoN. We have seen some docks being dropped, so there is no surprise in players trying to get some spearmen out to harass. But I think this is more of a defensive spearman here for RecoN. He's up against the Mongols, and you see Matiz is doing the same thing. This is where it gets funny, though, because Knusch hasn't really committed a lot to the spears right now. He's got 2 spears only, but this already forced both of the opponents to invest into a barracks in Dark Age.
Yeah, every time I see RecoN do something, he always does something different than I expect, which is, you know, it shows how different, like, pros are, even at the higher ends of the gameplay. Like, RecoN isn't going in IO. I mean, he's going Dark Age Spearman as China, which I would expect the HRE pro to do, but not the Chinese pro to do. So we'll see how they respond to this.
And here come the spearmen. They will focus down the dock, but it's double spearman production from RecoN and Matiz, so they can quickly match the numbers. Numbers even right now. The Falcon was deployed by Knusch for some extra vision. And it looks like he's going to have 2 more spears coming in here. First fishing boat out for Matiz. Numbers are looking pretty even, but of course the Mongol player does save quite a lot on those spearmen if he produces them in batches of 2. So this might actually seem even, but it's actually a small advantage for Knusch.
Yeah, I'm liking the way ZertoN and Knusch are doing this. If I were them, I would probably, as the Mong player, just go H2, get Ultra Zone as fast as possible. Okay, you're giving up a dock, but ZertoN himself has 4 fishing boats already, right? So you don't really care as much, I think. He needs to get on that gold, though, because his gold is... Oh, he's deciding to go barracks. Okay, interesting.
A lot of spears out there. RecoN is up to 7 and Matiz has 4. I said this before, Knusch didn't commit that much to the spears, now he's up to 7. But the opposing side, they are just going crazy on the spear numbers. 7 spears out already for the Chinese player.
Yeah, this is going to be a heavy Dark Age fight. I mean, even ZertoN is going to be getting some spears soon as well, right? I don't suspect anybody has any plans to go Feudal Age soon. I think if there were a player to go Feudal Age, it would probably be Mongols, right? They have no fish investment. They are double producing spearmen, so they are being a little bit more cost efficient than the Chinese, the HRE. And yeah, we'll have to see who goes Feudal first, because I think that is going to be the telltale sign of who has the advantage.
It's a tricky scenario for Nush, right? Because, sure enough, he's been double producing for a while, but given that he made so many spearmen, he's starting to run low on stone. And on the other side, RecoN does have the Chinese supervised bonus to get extra food from. So the longer this goes on, the better it is for Chinese.
Yeah, and Noosh is going out first, but in the resources, you see that China is not too far behind, and he is China, right? So he's going to get that Grand Mark up even faster. Ooh, losing that scout is obviously bad. You never want to lose a scout.
Yeah, that's going to sting a lot. There is the Barbican coming up from RecoN. It's going to be an aggressive Barbican. It's going to be right on the dock. Spearman now coming out to torch down this one. And you see, this is why, as you said, whoever gets the Feudal Age first could actually be the tempo setter of the game. Nush started going up a little sooner, but there comes the Chinese build bonus. And that Barbican is going to be the first landmark that gets finished.
Yeah, the Chinese just built it so fast. And, I mean, that's the thing, right? As Delhi, there's nothing you can do to really stop this Barbican going up. The hitbox is so big that the villagers won't be... The fishing boats, rather, won't be able to shoot the villagers building that Barbican. And that's just going to be a pain for the fishing boats for the rest of the game.
Yeah, dock now under attack. Villager has been pulled to repair, but that's a lot of spears, and it looks like the villager will just go away. On the other side, we will have the Mongol spears trying to torch down that dock as well. Obviously, that's going to give some bounty for Nush, so there is good value in it. Unless the spearmen shift to the south to stop that.
Yeah, I guess both docks are sort of going down at this point. Maybe RecoN can save the one over here. Probably not though, right? Well, it's close.
Well, the bounty is there, so at least that's that. But the big question now is going to be the spearmen upgrades. These are Feudal Age spearmen already for RecoN. I do not think... Actually, the Feudal Age upgrade should be in by now for the other player, Nush, as well. No Feudal Age upgrade, though, for the red spearmen, the ones from ZertoN.
Yeah, I think ZertoN is trying to get another dock down. He did lose the one at the top side, but he's getting this one down again, and they will be able to defend it, so...
Did you see that? Matiz just saved that dock at like 5 HP left. He's going to lose it in the end, but he managed to drop off some extra food. He dropped off like 50 extra food before the dock got burnt down. So, given the circumstances, he got a lot of value out of that repairville.
Yeah, that's cheeky. I mean, he did end up losing the villager as well, though, so... And he is very exposed. He only has 6 spearmen. I think Matiz is suffering the most from this Dark Age combat. He's not going to be able to mine this forward, right? And this Aachen is very exposed.
Yeah, he went aggressive with this Aachen placement, but you see it's actually being torched down here, and as it's being constructed, it does take a lot of damage. And it doesn't have a lot of spears to fight this. These spearmen can chill over here and continue throwing torches.
Yeah, and he has no food. So it's going to be... Well, he has the berries, but no sheep or anything. So it's going to be very hard for him to produce any units. He's going to need help from RecoN to get back on his gold and back on the wood here.
Oh, that's alarming, though, because if RecoN is getting pulled, that means that it's free real estate for ZertoN. In fact, he's shifting his spears to the north, and you have the feeling that if they just both double down on that position of the Aachen, it's going to be difficult for RecoN and Matiz to hold.
Yeah, no. Very much so. And although RecoN does have archers coming through, and Matiz should have men-at-arms coming through, I think, in the second year, ZertoN and Nush are also Feudal Age as well, so they should have archers coming in as well.
Lovely move, by the way, from Nush to deploy the Scouting Falcon behind the forest, so he knew fully well when the villagers shifted to the wood, and now he's going to push this one again. And you see, villagers have been scrambled for a brief moment to repair the landmark, but with that many spearmen nearby, this landmark won't stay up for long.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Matiz.
Yeah, forgot about the emergency repairs, though, as usual.
Yeah. I mean, he's just idling so many villagers at the moment, right? It's very bad for them.
That's true.
I'm
That's
not
very
even
true.
sure if this amount from RecoN can even defend how many spears ZertoN and Knusch have.
That's a lot of spears. You also have the Khan out there to possibly pop a movement arrow. Archer numbers, Chukunu numbers rising here for RecoN. But we are only seeing spears right now. This is just the first wave. There is going to be some archers behind this. In fact, Knusch already has 9 of them on the field. We could see some horsemen appear soon. Matiz and RecoN already struggle with the spears, so when these archers arrive, it gets more and more difficult.
Yeah, and we are seeing a few archers from Knusch at the moment. He's the Mog, he's probably double producing them. RecoN does have a better archer mass, so they're definitely going to have to pull back for now. They're actually probably losing more than they should be, but still in a commanding position, I think.
Credit to RecoN and Matiz for not losing vills, something that we have seen in the previous game as well. They did a great job keeping their villagers alive under pressure, and that is something that is the case in this game as well. Now there is a nicely placed defensive tower as well. It means that these spearmen will have a tougher time pushing, and it looks like RecoN and Matiz might stabilize in the end.
Yeah, and they finally secured Matiz's gold, his wood rhine. So he's not going to be struggling as much as he was before. Granted, though, I think ZertoN has 2 docks. So he's doing pretty well in the docking situation as well, and he even has attack boat here to defend.
Yeah, there is a Thou out there, so the Chukunus will be somewhat limited when it comes to where they can go. But no sacred sites just yet for the Delhi player. And don't forget, RecoN is playing with Song Dynasty, so he's going to have that villager production bonus. And Matiz does have the HRE eco bonus. So you have the feeling that the longer this game goes, the more beneficial it will be for Matiz and RecoN.
Yeah, ZertoN and Knusch do have the slight military advantage here, but as you noted, the eco is pretty similar, even giving the fishing boats. That is because of that song, right? And I think Matiz has a few fishing boats on the south end of the map as well that haven't been spotted out by ZertoN and Knusch. And he is
That's
also getting
cheeky.
the Archibos.
A lot of archers now on the field for Knusch. He's got 24. But on the other side, 21 Chukunus are available for RecoN. Matiz has started mixing in some men-at-arms as well to soak up arrow fire with. And it looks like Knusch will try to target Matiz again, as that will kind of create a diversion that allows them to create some strong points here in the middle of the map, secure the sacred sites, and Keshiks have started to be mixed in as well from Knusch.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, he's playing against the Chinese, so the Barbican is going to make it a little bit more difficult to be aggressive, but I mean, you definitely want that cav advantage, right? And we saw that cav advantage displayed by Matiz and RecoN in the previous game. You can do a lot with those units.
Chukunus trying to pursue this army. Don't forget, if you have a critical mass of Kashik, they can just wipe out those Chukunus. But it's a tricky math, because it's not like the Kashyyyks are super tanky, or at least not as tanky as the Knights are. So as long as you focus power with the Chukunu, they can take some good fights.
Yep, and the game is kind of slowing down a bit. Well, okay, just as I say that, Knusch is killing some fishing boats here on the dock, but I mean, it's a crazy game because of the Dark Age, because of the View Age. I don't think anyone is really investing into Caster Age, but I could be wrong about that. I mean, they both have Blacksmiths, so...
Chukunus now pushing up the archers. You do have a decent front line of men-at-arms, and we do have some walls coming up on the north as well for RecoN and Matiz. So as you said, the game is turning a little bit more defensive. We are slowing things down. Docks are kept alive. Walls are coming up. Especially RecoN and Matiz, they are setting up for a longer game, which, given the combination of civilizations that they have, is probably something that's very beneficial for them.
Yeah, 100%. I think if RecoN can get to that Caster Age and get out like some nested bees or something, it's going to be looking very good for the Chinese Nature team. I mean, this is a scary army, right? But they do have that attack bow, which is just providing so much AoE damage. Very, very, very strong utility from that bow coming out.
Yeah, the dock out there is going to be so difficult to deal with, and the single galley that's out there is just providing so much cover fire. And you see men-at-arms out there just not getting cleaned up by the archers. CrackedyHere are given a perfect front line. Now we have the Ghazi Raiders moving actually from ZertoN. They do have a bonus damage against those men-at-arms, so you gotta be cautious here. Spearmen are kept in reserve, however, by Matiz. He's going to dispatch them now. A couple of Ghazi Raiders will be taken down. Slowly but surely the galley is gotten rid of, and a Keshik supported by the archers push back the army of RecoN and Matiz.
Yeah, this is looking very good fight for Knuschelbär and ZertoN. Taking out that attack build as well is very detrimental because they just don't have that that backbone almost to be able to push back these units, so they're kind of pushing into their base a little bit here.
This is a little deceiving for them though. RecoN is up to 40 CrackedyHere. Only half of his army is out here. If he regroups with the rest of his forces, this army of CrackedyHere is a lot more devastating.
Yeah, it is true, but Knuschelbär and ZertoN are now pushing into the base a little bit. They might be getting a few villager kills at the bottom deer. I don't know if that's villagers or... Okay, he's going Castle Age as well.
Yeah, Castle Age comes at a risky time. They're outnumbered almost 2-1 when it comes to the army. But if he gets to Castle Age, if he gets the veterancy on the CrackedyHere, that might be enough to swing this in his favor. Archers will dive on the lumberjacks. Little do they know that the reinforcements from the CrackedyHere arrive just in time. So this is not a fight that they can take anymore. And you see the CrackedyHere will exploit that. Men-at-arms soak up the arrow fire, and the CrackedyHere just rain down death. That's a good fight over there for RecoN and Matiz, but they will have to address the cavalry that's now flanking to the north.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity for Knuschelbär and ZertoN to get some damage. RecoN is going after the Castle Age, so there is a little bit of an opening. They have the cav in the back of the base. If they can get a few villager kills here, they can maybe put themselves in a decent bit of advantage. Especially against China and HRE, you don't want to be behind going into the mid to late game.
Yeah, great raid over here, but quick reactions coming in from Matiz. He pulls off the villagers before he suffered a lot of casualties. Still though, last couple of moments were pretty good for Knusch and ZertoN, although now they lose the cavalry, and you do have to ask the question, was it worth losing all that cavalry for 2 villager kills?
I mean, maybe not. They definitely probably need to be a little bit more active with those cavalry so that they didn't lose them. Just being behind that base makes it a lot more difficult for RecoN and Matiz to play the game, right? They don't know if you can get food sources without cavalry being, you know, attacking them, so just the threat of having units sometimes is a little bit more deadly than actually having those units on villagers.
Yeah, compound of the defender on the way here for ZertoN as their armies do clean up the CrackedyHere. RecoN did have 15 more CrackedyHere available, but they weren't over here. But look at this on the other side, cavalry getting picked off. RecoN and Matiz have been taking some cost-effective fights, but they are still outnumbered 2-1. They don't really have their forces grouped together, and they don't have that critical mass that could just shatter the enemy.
Yeah, and as Vodka's pointing out, Knusch and ZertoN are heavily favored in the military at the moment. I feel like this is where RecoN really has to leverage that SCB, those spearmen, because how else do you kill this army when you're outnumbered like by double the units?
It's tricky, right? You got that Castle Age advantage for RecoN. He has gotten the veterancy on the CrackedyHere, but it's not like he had all the forces together, so most of his army got cleaned up. And now his opponents have Castle Age as well. ZertoN is up to Castle. Compound of the defender was the landmark of choice, so Keeps will now make an appearance. Village Fortresses will become a reality soon, and he will have the Castle Age upgrades on his archers eventually. Knusch and Matiz have yet to go up to Castle Age, and it looks like ZertoN is just going to switch into Knights at this point, or yeah, he's going to switch into Knights. He's no longer producing any of those Ghazi Raiders.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice, especially on this map. I mean, RecoN has walled off a bit of the map and has Barbican out, so the Knights are going to be deadly, but he's probably going to have to focus mostly on Matiz's side, which they do have control of at the moment, right?
They do. They do have midfield control as well. They could start securing the sacred site to the south. Technically, they could even contemplate pushing that Barbican, trying to secure the 3rd sacred site, although that might be unnecessary right now. At this point, they're just kind of gaining some ground, getting rid of the docks, setting themselves up for a Castle Age push, with Knusch also going into Castle.
Yeah, and you have to remember, ZertoN is, I think, picking up relics, and Matiz and HRE Pro is trapped in this feudal rage. Not really an ideal place you want to be as the HRE, so maybe we even see him aging up with the Burgo? Like, I mean, that's not ideal, but, you know, you don't really have a lot of options.
That's true. Kashyyyks yet to have their Castle Age upgrades, so the Chukonus deal well with them. But now the Men-at-Arms disappear. Matiz is the only player still in Feudal Age. He's constantly getting created by those Gauzy Raiders, as you see, and it's getting alarming for him. His eco is probably the weakest in the game, which is always a bad thing when you are HRE.
Yeah, this is looking very, very bad for Matiz. Yeah, and Gauzy Raiders are just causing havoc here. He has more archers coming as well.
And look at that, Gauzy Raiders getting some good value over here. Spearmen are chasing them, but the raids from ZertoN are starting to take a toll on both Matiz and RecoN, and it starts to escalate into the army department. Matiz will try to squeeze out Castle Age here. He's coming up with the Regnitz Cathedral, though. You mentioned this. By the time he gets up to Castle Age, most of the relics will be gone, so curious choice in that scenario.
Yeah, maybe he wants to get a 1 or 2, but I don't think he's going to get much more than that. And it almost feels like a 2v1 at this point. Like, RecoN is just trying to 2v1. Matiz is just so far behind in almost every metric.
There is a keep on the right side, though, as Vodka is pointing out. There's a lot of chaos going on. Chinese fast building, and you said this, kind of feels like a 2v1. RecoN doing his best over here. He dropped the keep in the base of ZertoN, and let's not sleep on that. It's something that could easily do a lot of damage, especially if you follow up with something like Rams or maybe Trebs. And if you do a lot of damage to ZertoN, it turns into a semi 1v1.
Yeah, that it would be very interesting if that was the case. Yeah, you can't sweep on Chinese keeps, right? If he could... Oh, he's getting some Trebs out and a Ram out, but if he could get some Spring Ults himself to counteract this Treb damage, he could do a lot of damage himself.
Yeah, Chicken is now moving here. Archer upgrades have been obtained by Knusch. He does have the Kashyyyk upgrades as well. And ZertoN has a lot of Lancers here. I don't know if this fight is something that RecoN can afford to take, but for the time being, he's gonna pull villagers here. You see, Castle is being trapped down. Villagers just try to throw invisible torches towards the Ram. A couple of Lancers moving to try and pick off the Vills, but the Ram will be taken down. Villagers will jump back into the keep. No boiling oil on the keep, though, so getting rid of these Lancers will take a little bit more time.
Where is it? Okay, there he goes. He is going to kill those Lancers, but the Treb is not going down, right? So... He doesn't have an answer to Trebuchet yet.
For the time being, that keep feels more like a tool of buying time and just getting a little window in which Matiz can stabilize. They did just that, and to be honest, these are actually trebuchets coming from Knusch, not even ZertoN. Nice little trap over there. Quick walls succeed for RecoN, so the Spearmen can continue to pursue all these Lancers, but catching up with these high mobility units has been a challenge throughout the game for Matiz and RecoN, and it continues to be a challenge to this point.
Yeah, and that's just, I think, the result of RecoN... I mean, sorry, Matiz, just not being able to stabilize. Like, he can't get walls up, and units are just kind of running through his base, and there's just no response to that whatsoever. And just, units are everywhere at this point.
Army numbers have gotten very close, though. There's a 30 villager advantage on the side of Knusch and ZertoN. As you mentioned, they have most of the relics. They did have a Delhi Sacred Site for a while. They're also getting some nice bounty for these Kashyyks, burning down the mill, taking down the keep with the Trebs. Nice little bonus as well for Knusch. But the more alarming thing is that this doesn't feel like a 2v2 right now, as you said. This is more like a 2v1. Basically, all the army that belongs to RecoN's team actually belongs to RecoN, and Matiz has little contribution to it right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, like, I would have liked to see the keep from RecoN, instead of being in zone space, maybe being in Matiz's space, because I feel like that's what would really have helped them stabilize back into this game. It's cheeky and nice that he has to keep in, well, he had to keep in zone space, but it's going to survive a lot longer in Matiz's space.
Lancers now moving in, so do the Kashyyyks. Nice little raiding job done over here by Knusch. He's up to 19 Kashyyyks and he's using them as he should. Just run around, raid, force RecoN to pursue with all these Chukonu. They are taking some okay fights, but ZertoN and Knusch never really let RecoN take engagements. They just keep running circles around him, and they are in a really good position in this game now.
Oh, 100%. I think they just need the siege to push, well, either of their bases, and they should be fine. I mean, Matiz has 54 pop, right? He's essentially not a pro anymore, especially considering, I mean, he has, like, no pop in military, so even if he has villages, he has no military support RecoN, so, I think as soon as Knusch and ZertoN gather their army, get some siege, and push, I think it is not going to end very well for Matiz and RecoN.
Once again, the Lancers charge in. Chukonu are here to defend, but here come the Mangonels. Beautiful Mangonel shot out from the shadows, the stealth forest. And the second Mangonel shot could come in here as well. RecoN is going to pull back all of his Chukonu, but the casualties are just mounting too high. Many of the Chukonus have been heavily damaged. There is no front line. The Nest of Bees gets a beautiful volley delivered, but still just feels like an overwhelming advantage in the favor of Knusch and ZertoN. They're pushing deeper and deeper. The Chukonu disappear, and it seems like we're getting closer and closer to an even series, as ZertoN and Knusch are very close to secure the game. RecoN and Matiz do tap out, and it's an even series now.
Yeah, and that was well played by ZertoN and Knusch for sure. They obviously, I think they were a little bit taken off by China and HRE, but they played very aggressive, both Dark Age aggression, and they really took advantage of the fact that RecoN and Matiz decided to play HRE in China. So well played by them.
Yeah, you love the timing that ZertoN and Knusch used here. They knew fully well that if this game goes very long, HRE China is hard to beat, so they had to be the aggressors, and they did just that. Right from the get-go, they went very heavy on the spears, and they did a lot of damage to Matiz early on. Just even stalling out the construction of the Talking Chapel was problematic, and after that, for a long, long time, they idled the eco of Matiz by pressuring that angle.
Yeah, and they continued to pressure the weak angle of RecoN and Matiz, right? They just ignore RecoN. You can do whatever you want. We're just gonna obliterate Matiz into non-existence, right? And you just can't win a 2v1. It's not possible.
This brings us to the first home map of RecoN and Matiz. They have went for very conventional maps. We talked about this. They went for Lipany and Hillendale. They opt to go for Lipany here in game number 3. Both sides choosing to go with the Abbasids, but the Knight civilization will differ. RecoN and Matiz will have the French, and the Rus will be there for ZertoN and Knusch.
It's funny. This was like Dry Arabia, but like instead of Ottomans, it's Abbasids. Instead of they switched their French and Rus picks.
How do you feel about this, though? Especially seeing how well the combination of Rus and Abbasids went. Or, yeah, it was Rus and Ottomans in game number 1, right? Yeah, it was Rus and Ottomans in game number 1 for RecoN and Matiz. And it went very well for them. How do you feel about this matchup in light of that?
I do think actually Rus and Abbasids may have a advantage here, to be honest. But just because this map in particular is very closed off, and you can wall a lot more, and Rus walls have obviously stronger, cheaper, build faster. So I do favor Rus and Abbasids on this map.
Ah, interesting. I feel like Rus and Abbasids are great, but a lot depends on how heavy you can go on the eco. Because so far what we have seen in this tournament is that the French like to stay on 1TC. We have seen more 2TC builds from the Rus, actually. And I feel like if we go for a 1TC Knight build from both the Rus and the French usually seem to prevail in that. So I'm curious to see how ZertoN and Knusch will adapt to that, how big of a factor the militias will be in early on, whether we see another Golden Gate like we have seen from Matiz in game number 1. These are all variables that will be interesting to take a look at.
Yeah, I would be a little surprised to see Kremlin, but I mean, it worked very well for Matiz and RecoN, right? So, it's definitely a good option. So, gonna have to be seeing what they do. I am surprised, not surprised, curious Whether we see what wing we see, I think it's probably going to be military wing, but against an Abbasid mirror, you could definitely try to go for that eco wing, especially if you're the French and Abbasid player, right? French is going to cover the early game, so if you're playing alongside French, you can probably try to get that advantage even more so by going for the eco wing.
All right. So far, we have seen mostly military wing openings on these open maps from the Abbasids. Having those two spears, having those two archers, and the ability to harass the gold mine, especially from the French, seemed very valuable. But yeah, that's an interesting point that you bring up with the economy wing in light of this.
Hmm. Yeah, so we've seen 2 maps now. This would be the third, and then that leaves us with 2 more maps and 4 civilizations on each side. So getting down to the wire and what civilizations you can choose on each map.
Indeed. In fact, let's talk about Hillandale because if RecoN and Matiz opt to go for that when it's going to be available for them to choose, they won't have a lot of options left. Chinese, HRE are gone. They still have Mongols, but that's something that we could see on mountain clearing as well. They do have Delhi available. What else do they have? I'll have to think over the civilizations. Malians is available for both teams still.
Yeah, so both teams have English and both teams have Malians left. So that is interesting. I think for ZertoN and Noosh, they're probably going to play H3 English. And then RecoN will probably play English Malians, I guess.
Could be. Although English,
And,
I feel like English could be the wildcard civ for mountain clearing as well. Maybe something like English Malians could work there as well, especially with HRE gone from RecoN and Matiz. So, a lot of variables
yeah.
actually. It's difficult to predict these remaining civilizations because some of these picks from at least RecoN and Matiz, especially the ones played in game number 2, were somewhat unique, more unconventional, which also makes the rest of the civilizations being allocated a lot more unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely true. I mean, that's part of their style maybe as well, just to like put off your opponent. And I mean, when you do these like weird picks, um, they kind of have no idea what you're going to choose next, right? So interesting from them.
Indeed, we're just seconds away from the next game. Let's take a quick look at the brackets, though, while we still have a couple of moments as the game begins. Let's take a look at who RecoN, Matiz, or ZertoN and Knusch would play if they advance to the next round. If you win this set, you are going to be automatically qualified for the quarterfinals next Saturday. You don't have to play tomorrow. And indeed, what we have here is ZertoN and Knusch and RecoN and Matiz at the bottom half of the brackets. Right now it's one apiece. And I guess you're taking notes over here, Wam, because if you beat Louis MT and Yui Metal alongside Blade, you guys would be matched up against the winner of this set.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am. I mean, I'm casting it, right? So I have to be. And I mean, they're both very two strong teams, and I think RecoN style is a little bit more out there. So if they do win, I'll have to prepare for that. Oh,
Jumping into game number 3 over here. Looks like we don't have the score on board. Okay, there it is. It is game number 3 coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We do have in cold colors Matiz and RecoN with the French and the Abbasids, and Knusch will have the Abbasids and the Rus. They are going to be playing with the warm colors, purple and red. The map is Lipany, and you talked about this one in the pregame. One of the interesting things will be how the Rus gets utilized over here, because so far what we have seen in this tournament is that in 2v2 setups where it's a French versus Rus Knights game in Feudal, that usually favors the French.
yeah. And that advantage may even read the Abbasid on the French side to just, maybe he can squeeze out an eco wing instead of a military wing. Again, I'll be very curious to see how they decide to play out this match. And I mean, the Abbasids will definitely go for double TC, but are we going to see a third TC? Are we going to see double TC from French and Rus? I think there are a lot of possibilities in this match, especially considering it's on Lipany. Yeah, we'll have to watch out for that during the game.
Obviously, with the Rus on the map, we will have to take a look at the bounty. You can see that at the bottom left. And obviously, when you have the Rus in a 2v2 matchup, the threshold of calling your bounty good or acceptable is much higher than it is in a 1v1. You have a lot more hunt that you can take down, so you're probably aiming for that 300 to 400 bounty, which also means that you're pretty much guaranteed wheelbarrow.
Yeah, and that just makes Rus even better on 2v2 maps as well, right? There's just more hunts on the map. I don't know about wolves, but I would suspect more wolves as well. I'm not 100% sure on that, but there's just a lot more stuff to kill. And he could probably be researching it right now as well, right? If he wanted to. I think he could, but I guess he's going to age up pretty quick as well soon here.
Yeah, wheelbarrow hasn't been clicked, actually. Are you surprised about that?
A little bit. I think he decided to do it and then stopped it, but I think you definitely could go for it. He's going to have the 200 gold to afford it, but his choice, I guess.
Yeah, he's going to have a decent amount of bounty, though.
And we actually see economic wing from both Abbasid players, so okay. Not too surprised by that, but I think military wing is a good option as well.
Yeah, Golden Gate on the way. All right, so we've talked about this one in game number 1, but let's get back to this for a moment. We have seen the Kremlin being the dominant landmark for a long, long time in 1v1s as well as team games, but especially in 1v1s for the Rus. But this is the second time in this series that we do see the Golden Gate. What's up with this landmark?
I honestly couldn't tell you because I still do prefer the Kremlin, but I just think in 2v2s it gives you a lot more utility than in 1v1s, I think. I think that's probably why people are deciding to do it. I don't think it's straight up better than the Kremlin, but it allows you to be a little bit more flexible with your resources, I guess. And you are saving that 50 resources. You're getting 50 resources per minute, right? Because you're trading efficiently. And both Abbasid players have decided to start going on stone, so we are going to see some TCs out this game.
Now, when you talk about extra TCs, obviously, the Golden Gate still allows you to buy the stone. It's just the fact that it takes a little bit more time, or you need to start mining stone, something that you didn't need to do before the town center cost was raised. So it could still be a way to expedite your second town center. But what I'm actually more curious about with this landmark is it creates your buffer. I feel like one of the things that we kind of underappreciate with the Golden Gate is that in a 2v2, you could get pressured heavily on your gold. So having a couple of tickets to balance your eco and just be able to sustain your night production could come in very handy.
No, yeah, for sure. And I think he might actually buy stone. I'm not sure. He is mining stone at the moment, but you can definitely buy it if you choose as well, but well, I guess not at this point. Well, maybe he will. I'm having trouble reading what he's doing, but French is producing a knight now. Oh, he did buy stone. Okay, so he's probably maybe even going to buy a second round. Maybe that's why he didn't go for that wheelbarrow, right? He wanted to save the gold so he could buy stone.
Oh, that's a good point. Although he went up to 320 bounty, so in fact he's now getting double broadaxe. So I think he could have done that with a wheelbarrow as well, but remains to be seen. Now, looking at these gold spots, as Vodka is highlighting, this is far from good for Matiz. He's playing Abbasid, so it's probably not the biggest disaster of the world, but this is definitely not a convenient position for him to be in gold-wise.
No, and I think he is going 30C, right? So you probably want to have your 30C on some gold, maybe the gold in the deer just above his base. Yeah, he needs to secure gold somehow. And it's a very passive game at the moment, right? Even considering there's French and Rus out on the map, we haven't really seen many fights.
Yeah, it's a very slow-paced game. You have double TCs coming out for both Abbasid players. We do have, as you said, another TC coming up for ZertoN as well. Question is whether we see an extra TC for RecoN, because it seems like he might be the only player who's yet to place a second TC. I actually wonder if he will. I don't see any blue dots close to stone mines, so I'm inclined to believe that RecoN is playing one TC for the time being, and indeed he does.
Yeah, it is a little bit interesting. I think you probably do want to get a second TC at some point, but I mean, getting that Night Mass and getting, some map control is not a bad idea either, which they do have. It's gonna be hard for Noosh to get a good good third TC if RecoN is watching that. So we'll have to watch that in a minute, yeah.
Obviously, with no second TC coming up, it opens up the opportunity for RecoN to just go heavy on the Knights. And there is going to be is that a third TC?
Yeah, that's a third
Yeah.
TC by Matiz, and I think, well, I would prefer it if it was on the gold here, but he's gonna decide to go on the Dio. Um, like you said, I think getting that a safe gold mine here would be a huge advantage for him. Yeah, like Vodka's pointing out.
Yeah, I have to agree. I feel like the hunt close by is nice, but when you have no safe gold, it's worrisome. A very far away expansion to the south comes in from ZertoN. It's a very well defendable area. You can see that there's a cliff in front, so you could just wall this part off. But we have seen players playing a passive game, bit of a poking around on both sides with knights, but the players are willing to go out a lot more further away, I guess, from their TCs, despite the fact that we do have a couple of knights roaming the map.
Yeah, and this is the advantage of having the French, right, and RecoN getting a bigger army mass, is that Noosh has to have a more defensive third TC, while Matiz gets to praise that TC a little bit further from his base, so that is an advantage that we see.
And it's actually a great point, especially if you think about the fact that Noosh couldn't really secure a lot of food with those TCs. All three of those TCs are very compressed together, so access to food will be a lot more limited than it is to someone like, let's say, Matiz.
No, 100%. And I'm still waiting for RecoN to do a lot of damage with these knights, and he hasn't gone for that second TC, so it does feel like there's sort of missed opportunity being happened with these knights at the moment. Okay,
Nice little raid
that's...
here.
Yep, few kills.
Gets a couple of kills, idles some vills. RecoN and Matiz do have a villager lead of 10, by the way. That is not something that we should underestimate. Obviously, with RecoN just playing 1 TCs, this will narrow soon. But, as you said, I'm actually curious to see what RecoN has on his mind. So far, it feels like he's just playing into the Knights. I do not know if he will drop an additional TC later on. But for the time being, he's just walling up, getting those Knights going, and kind of trying to allow Matiz to have an untouched boom.
Yeah, I mean, Matiz has obviously... I think he got the TC a little bit faster than Noosh because of these knights, so that eco advantage is probably because of the French villager bonus, plus Babicid got the TC a little bit quicker. And RecoN is going to get some good value with the knights here. Going to kill these spearmen, going to push back the knights as well, get a few villager kills again.
Yeah, it looks like he's also stopping or at least slowing down these walls, which could be valuable. Now, I got a crazy question for you. First of all, we're seeing Matiz coming up with camel archers, but one of the things that is interesting to me to talk about here in context with the Abbasids is something that Mista reminded me to talk about, actually. Not directly, but just thinking back to his Winter Team Championship matches. When he played Abbasids, it was, I don't remember the map actually, but it was the one with the island in the middle and the water on the outside. And he played into Camel Riders. Given that we basically have Knights only from ZertoN, and maybe a couple of Spears, a couple of Archers from Noosh, could you see Camel Riders be a thing here for Matiz?
So, Camera Riders, I'm not sure about Camera Riders, but I know Camera Archers, they got, well, okay, both got changed for a bit, but Camera Archers, they are actually a lot more fun to use now because their drawback timer is not as slow, so you can micro them a lot better. We might be able to see it here in a second, but you can micro these units a lot better than before. And yeah, I do think, given that, we might see some cameras and some camera archers being mixed into this army comp for them.
Royal Institute coming in here for RecoN. He's going to be the first player to go up to Castle Age. Not something that you see every day from the French, but he's been quietly building up a Night Mass. He's up to 12. He's been playing 1 TC, so that's kind of what you expect from him. Love that he also contributed towards the walling. But still, the eco is something that he's going to have to address, especially because now ZertoN and Knusch are turning that double TC, triple TC eco into actual army numbers. You see that the army count is starting to favor ZertoN and Knusch.
Yeah, it is starting to favor them, and I think they have to be a little bit careful here, just be given that they do have camera archers outside their base, so they don't want to push too hastily. They want a big archer mass to one-shot those camera archers. And that's what they are doing. They're not being too hasty. I mean, these walls are beautiful, right? Just securing so much freedom on the map for ZertoN. Yeah, I think they can just give it some time. Let that second eco kick in, second DC eco kick in and stuff, and push out in a few minutes, yeah.
Royal Institute does finish here for RecoN. He's likely going to pop the Royal Bloodlines deck in an instant, and this could be a deadly combo. Royal Bloodlines Knights with that many Camel Archers will be tough to deal with. The Camel Archers will debuff the enemy Knights, and they will also do a great job picking off the Spears. So, if that deck comes in, that could be devastating. Nice little raid here, however, from ZertoN. Will push away the Wills here from Matiz. Matiz will likely lose at least one Will, right? Nope. Looks like the Knights will disengage.
Yeah, Knights are going to disengage there. I think if Knusch waits till he's age 3 and gets that composite bows upgrade that we saw being so strong in the Pug game, I think they're going to have an advantage just because these archers are going to be buffed so much more than the camera archers are.
I have to agree. I think production is also a big question for Matiz and RecoN. Camel Archers take so much time to create, and you see they do get picked off pretty easily by these Knights once they close the distance. On the other side, mass-producing those archers is just a lot easier. But you do have the element of mobility for RecoN and Matiz, so there are some pros and cons on either side. And you see that Matiz is pushing up with some very aggressively placed walls. They're trying to clean up this group of Knights inside, and then they just try to secure like 70% of the map on the southern flank.
Yeah, they are securing a lot of the map, and they do have the mobility advantage. Matiz is aging as well, so there's advantages on both sides. I think Knusch and ZertoN actually have almost double the units. I think that's a little deceiving, obviously, because Matiz and RecoN are both going to be H3, but I do feel like Knusch and ZertoN should probably age instead of attacking here. I think attacking is a mistake. We'll have to see, though, if they do decide to attack.
Yeah, if they can punish this Castle Age from Matiz, that could be crazy. But then again, they are now missing out on a lot of techs. Those Knights should have Royal Bloodlines in a second. Indeed, 30 seconds remain. Can't Hold Settles has already been obtained. And as you said, Military Wing is now going to be in for Matiz. He is going to get the Castle Age upgrades on those Camel Archers. So the timing advantage might be right over here for Matiz and RecoN. They're outnumbered 2-1, but the quality of their army looks like it's a lot more functional than it is from ZertoN and Knusch. ZertoN and Knusch just now going up to Castle.
Yeah, and there is sort of a timing here for Matiz and RecoN. They are both Caster Age. Knusch and ZertoN have... Neither of them have reached the Caster Age yet. And the thing is, right, is Knusch and ZertoN also have an eco advantage. So Matiz and RecoN do have to get some damage in to get that eco advantage up. Microing with these cam archers is a lot easier in Season 5 than before, which is nice.
Castle Age on the way. Hydrate House is going to be the landmark of choice for ZertoN. Knusch is going heavy on the infantry. You see he's queuing up 10 more archers. He's got 50 of them out there already. And once you have that mass of archers with composite bows, it gets pretty easy to snipe down all these camel archers, but you will need a strong front line. You will need knights here from ZertoN, and you will need some spears to stop these knights with.
Yeah, they both ZertoN and Knusch are producing spears, so it's not just one of them, which I like. I think that's a very smart move from them. They don't... I mean, they're putting mass camera archer knights, right? You're not going to win the knight war, you need to win the infantry war, and that's really what they're trying to do at the moment.
Here come the knights. Not a lot of front line in here. Spearmen just now turn around. This is before the Castle Age upgrades are obtained by ZertoN and Knusch. Timing looks pretty good for Matiz and RecoN. Camel Archer's doing a good job getting rid of the Spearmen. And most of the knights have been untouched here. RecoN can now unleash them on the archers. And you see, the army of ZertoN is lagging behind a tiny bit over here, just now joining the engagement.
Yeah, I was very confused on, like, where's ZertoN's army? I feel like Knusch is losing a lot of his units without even ZertoN's support, so... I mean, they're gonna Well, it's hard to tell, really, because that's a lot of knights and that's not that many spearmen. At the moment, it's crows. This is where, like, you kind of want the gremlins to come in, but he didn't go Kremlin, right? So...
Yeah, here comes the push. Knights now in a choke point. Have to be careful with the spears. Good fight for the spears. ZertoN getting a lot of damage done to those knights, and you see the archers firing from the backline. They slowly focus down the camel archers. It seems like it's a numbers game right now, and the flood of infantry, supported by some knights from ZertoN, seem to prevail over a much higher quality, but massively outnumbered army that comes out from Matiz and RecoN.
Yeah, I'm looking at Matiz's eco right now, and he has 2k food, 2k gold. I feel like he could almost even go into like goo bombs or something. I think mass cam archers at the moment, probably not the way you want to be going against Castle Age opposite archers, but maybe he's thinking about imp. Like I'm not sure what he's kind of thinking about. It's hard to say.
Camel archers now taking a fight against those archers. Now good upgrades are in for Knusch.
Oh.
He's going to push all those camel archers back. You see, trenches have been dug, and there is a bit of a buffer area over here for RecoN and Matiz, but they really cannot afford to lose all these camel archers. Production doesn't seem great, and part of the reason why is because Matiz wants to go Imperial. He's aging up with the trade wing.
Yeah, I don't know about that. He's on 130 pop and he's trying to go Imperial? Yeah, he's adding the barracks now, but I would have preferred him to just add barracks and just make goo bombs instead of going Imperial. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they just die here because of his choice, to be honest.
Yeah, it feels so awkward, especially with all these production buildings on the front. They could lose that in a second. You see Abbasid player Knusch already starting to drop rams. They will start just massacring all the villagers that are exposed. They will start knocking down those production buildings. And it looks like RecoN knows that they cannot take a direct fight. Will try to use these knights as a diversion, try to get some eco damage done. But as you said, that trade wing timing feels very uncomfortable, to say the least. So does the fact that you're losing mass villagers now on the berries.
Yeah, this almost reminds me of Game 1, except ZertoN and Knusch are actually getting a lot of damage done on this side of the map. Like, RecoN is probably going to get a lot done as well, but it just doesn't feel like as much.
Yeah, I have to agree. Now Abbasid Spearmen are out here supported by some crossbows, and I don't think that Matiz has realized that his villagers have been killed to the south. So many villagers on the berries have been lost. Indeed, that's the case.
Oh.
That's the game, I feel.
I think so as well. I mean, they're down to 41 units. It's mostly just RecoN's army, which is getting damage done, but mostly not eco units, right? They're still down 80 villagers. Like, sorry, 60 villagers.
I mean, look at this massacre. This is just crazy. That's basically all the chance that Matiz and RecoN had. Like, if they had any chance in this game, it would have gone through surviving with those villagers. Now there is just no shot at this. They've lost way too much eco. Matiz's eco has been shattered. His base is being taken down. They are down by, I think, more than 100 population, actually. Quick math, it's 150. He's got only a handful of camel archers. A couple of hand cannoneers are being mixed in. But the numbers game just favor Knusch and ZertoN so much more. They are very close to getting their first lead of the entire series. They have played a very convincing game before, and now they are playing very convincing as well. Knusch also on the way to Imperial.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, Matiz, okay, you got Imperial Age, but Knusch is just, you know, a minute and a half behind you. It's really not that big of a deal, and your economy is in shadows, so yeah, just not a good age up timing from them, and they really punished it for him, so. Yeah, 130 military to 44 at the moment. It's just tough situation to be in. Map control as well. I don't know if that's a keep near the big gold mine, but Knusch is taking map control back, whereas like just probably 10 minutes ago they had a lot of map control with the cam archers. Yeah, and you see a keep on the big gold mine here as well.
Yeah, feels like just a matter of closing this out at this point for ZertoN and Knusch. Matiz and RecoN hope for recovery, but with all these villagers having been killed, it feels like a long shot. They do have a lot of knights. It's 32 to be, or 36 actually to be precise, but when you have so many spears out there from both players, actually, both the Rus and the Abbasids, they do have crossbows being mixed in. It's going to get increasingly difficult to get value out of these. Sacred Sites are not being capped, relics, even a conversion attempt by Knusch. But I feel like the thing that seals the deal will be the Imperial Age coming in for Knusch.
Yeah, it's, I mean, Knusch is I mean, Matiz has 101 units. Knusch probably has 200 pop army, insane eco. Yeah, I think Abbasid at this point is so strong, is so much stronger economically than Matiz that he could probably 1v2. I'm not trying to like BM, that's probably just the scenario that's in this game.
Yeah, if Matiz didn't lose all these villagers to the south, there might be like a glimpse of hope for them. Even then it would be a long shot though. With losing 30, 40 villagers down south, it feels impossible.
I mean, look at Knuschelbär's eco. 200 pop, I mean, 200 pop, almost 4k food, 2k gold, and he has an insane Abbasid army, so he could probably just push French and win at this point stage in the game.
Imperial Age on the way now for our red player, ZertoN as well. He's going to have the Streltsy unlocked once he gets there, and that's probably the direction that he's going to head towards, given that so far he's been just mixing in some spears, mixing in some crossbows. Streltsy would supplement the army of spears well. There is still a big ball of cavalry though for RecoN. That's their lifeline, so to speak. If they can somehow get a tremendous amount of eco damage done, there might be a small chance for them to come back into this one. But for them to make this happen, it would take nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, if Knusch and ZertoN give RecoN and Matiz some more time to get back their eco, to get, you know, maybe some villager kills on the other side of the map, there is an opportunity, but I think they should really be pushing into their base at the moment. We should see, I think.
And Knights are moving in. Mobility advantage is on the side of Matiz and RecoN. The army from Knusch and ZertoN are very slow, but you do have a lot of production buildings over here. Defensive keeps are being dropped down. Knights do have the numbers advantage, but this is a Castle Age army. And with bombards being mixed in by Knusch and ZertoN, they can soon just start marching towards the landmarks and getting rid of one of those players. Clock is ticking here for RecoN and Matiz, and they do know that they will try to fight this one. Those are Abbasid spears though, with phalanx, and RecoN doesn't want to fight this. A suboptimal engagement over here is simply something that he cannot afford.
He can't afford it, right? And he's age 3, so if he loses this army, he has no shot of getting age 4. He really probably won't even be able to remax. They really need to take the best fight imaginable, and I mean, maybe it's possible. They are diving into a keep and some TCs now. I think they can afford it, but I have to see how the fight goes.
Yeah, Mangonels will be much needed here. There is a Mangonel coming over from Matiz. There is a Mangonel in queue as well for RecoN, but they need some massive Mangonel shots over here to make up for this one. Now the Imperial Age upgrades have been obtained by ZertoN on those spears. So from now on, the tech advantage is on the side of Knusch and his teammate ZertoN. But here come the Knights, get a good push on the archers, but this is a choke point to hold. Numbers look pretty healthy here for Matiz and RecoN. It's a lot of spears on the front line though, but that's a lot of Knights as well. 50 Knights with Royal Bloodlines supported by some Camel Archers. The Mangonel though, that could be the game changer. Here comes the Mangonel. We'll get a volley out on the Archers actually on the back line, not focusing down the spears. Knights are taking a good fight surrounding the Archers, but you see the Knight numbers are slowly disappearing with all those Spearmen still being there. 20 Knights lost over here for RecoN, despite being able to clean up this army.
Yeah, and they will be able to clean up this army in the end, but again, RecoN is trapped in the Castle Age, right? Everyone else in this game is in the Imperial Age. While Matiz is in the Imp Age, his eco is not in good shape, to say the least.
Yeah, army numbers have equalized, so at least RecoN bought a lot of time, but those were pricey Knights that he lost. He's actually bleeding villagers on the back line thanks to these Archers, but as you said, the big thing is that he's still stuck in Castle Age. Granted, his army is slightly better than a Castle Age army. In fact, it's much better than an ordinary Castle Age army is, but it's still a Castle Age army against now full Imperial Age.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, while he doesn't, like, he's not fully having a Castle Age army, he does have those Royal Bloodlines. He is not. He doesn't have the Imperial upgrades, so he is suffering a little bit, but it's not super critical to get to that invade if he can't do it yet.
Traders are being mixed in by RecoN and Matiz. You can see that at the top of the screen. And if they can get some trade going, that could quickly start adding up to the eco that they are so much in the need of. And whose resources are we looking at right now? This is definitely not RecoN, so he's going to stay in Castle Age for the time being. A couple of Gulams being mixed in over here to try and respond to the Spearmen. But now you have Streltsy on the back line, and once you have this combo of Streltsy and Spearmen, this is just so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, there's no way Knights are going to be able to kill Streltsy and Spearmen. I feel like they have no answer besides Siege to this army, which I think Matiz has a few Siege or whatever, but they really need, like, I think a heavy Archer mass or something to deal with this, because Knights, their current army is just not sufficient for it.
Yeah, it looks like the Spearmen will close the distance to the Camel Archers. Camel Archers will have to abandon the position. Here come the Streltsy. They start picking apart the villagers under the keep. Rams are now knocking on the doors. I don't see Boiling Oil either. So this is going to be an easy keep takedown. And on the other side, looks like the traders just disappear in an instant. Here comes the Bombard push. Things are falling apart for RecoN and Matiz. It's almost a 2-to-1 ratio of population at this point. Spearmen even charging in on the Mangonel. They do get the kill. I don't know. I really feel like there is just no way back for Matiz and RecoN.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at Knusch's bank. He has like 12k resources. You'd think if he spent all those resources, they would just die. RecoN is trapped in the Castle Age, and you have like quadruple your resource count, so I don't see a way back into this game, but...
So if you're RecoN and Matiz, what are you believing in? What's the reason of them staying in this game? They know how big their casualties were. They knew that they still have a player in Castle Age. What is the win condition that you're playing for in their place?
Oh, I honestly... It's a tough question, because maybe they don't understand how far they are behind, or, well... RecoN just surrounds us now, but... Yeah, it's looking very grim for them, and they decide to leave, so... I understand that completely.
And with that, for the first time in this series, ZertoN and Knusch take the lead. Very convincing game from them. They went heavy on the eco, and you really feel like this game came down to two details from RecoN and Matiz. Number one, a 1TC build from RecoN, the only player to play in 1TC only. And the second one was that interesting imp timing for Matiz. Of course, especially combined with the fact that he lost about 40 villagers just as he was going up to Imperial.
Yeah, I think that Imperial Age fight for ZertoN and Knusch probably secured them the game. It was a little bit interesting that RecoN decided not to go for second TC himself. Also, probably not the best move. He didn't really get a lot of damage done, right? So I think those two critical mistakes and really carried them this game, I think. I mean, they did play well, but yeah.
And it looks like RecoN and Matiz opt to go for mountain clearing. So they use their ability to be able to pick the opponent's home map over here. They will take game number 4 to mountain clearing. English will be available for both players or both teams, but it's going to be supported by the Mongols on the side of RecoN and Matiz and the HRE on the side of ZertoN and Knusch. Which of these combinations of civilizations do you prefer for mountain clearing?
I gotta say, I prefer the English HRE. They're classic 1v1 mountain clearing civs. Both very strong in their own right. Maybe in the 2v2, Mongols has more utility. I mean, we saw that from the Puppy Paw mountain clearing game, right? How how well they utilize the Mongol H2 aggression. I do prefer ZertoN and Knusch's civs, but yeah, we'll have to see.
Well, we got 4 minutes left to go, so let's take a look at the schedule for the rest of the day, because this is only the second set of the day. After this set, Beastie will be joining me for the second pair of sets as we will head into Crackedy and Baltune versus Core and Donardi, and the fourth series of the day, Marine Lord and Alyona versus B and Cat. What are your predictions for those two sets coming up?
So I've been kind of wanting Core to do some practice with me, and he hasn't really gotten any practice with me, which I'm very sad about. But he said he's been practicing, so I do think Baltune and Crackedy have a slight advantage. But if Core's been practicing and he says he has, maybe Core and Donardi could pull off a win there. In the fourth series, I do think B and Cat are favored, but obviously you can't ever count Marine World out, right? So, I think both of the series are actually going to be close regardless.
And tomorrow, of course, we will have Sort and Donardi, or Sort and State, actually, face against Magic and Maito. A lot of Canadians to be featured tomorrow, actually. Aside from Puppy Paw, all the Canadians will be playing tomorrow. Louis MT and Yui Metal will be facing you and Blade in the second set. Divine and Kiljardi will continue the day later on. We only have 3 minutes left to go. Of course, folks, the start time for these broadcast days is 1 hour earlier than usual for EGC streams. It starts at 14 GMT here at Afreeca TV. Again, shout out to Afreeca TV for sponsoring this event. We will be showing all 8 round of 16th matches today and tomorrow. Next Saturday, we will be showing you all the quarterfinals, and then the last day of the tournament, next Sunday, will feature the semifinals and the grand finals.
Yeah, really amazing event that they're supporting. So, yeah, please support as well. I honestly, I'm very excited to play some more 2v2 action these days. 1v1s for me has been getting a little bit, not stale, but I'm excited to get into some 2v2 action. I think most other pros are as well.
We didn't have a major 2v2 event for quite a while. In fact, last time we had a 2v2 event was, I think, a Rising Empires, just a month and a half or so ago. But before that, and especially when you look at major events, S tiers, high A tiers, those were somewhat lacking. The scene has been dominated mostly by 1v1 tournaments, so it's definitely a breath of fresh air when you take a look at these 2v2s, 3v3s, dare I say 4v4s.
Yeah, and the last time we saw a major STO event was the Winter Championship. It featured a lot of the same maps as this map. Cool. Well, maybe not a lot of them, but we saw Jousting Fields earlier today. Dry Arabia, of course. And a lot of the same players as well. Myself, Puppy Paw, Casper. I remember doing pretty well in that tournament, so a lot of fun times there.
Yeah, I mean, Winter Team Championship was definitely one of the more memorable team game events of recent history. But I'm sure that the future is also going to hold a lot of open spots for team game events, and it's always nice to see these, right? It's so different from the 1v1s, a completely different skill set required to be successful in these. And it's very nice to see how much team coordination and chemistry can factor into wins or losses.
Oh yeah, it's completely different from 1v1s. Obviously, there's some skill translation. Like if you're good at 1v1s, you're probably gonna have an advantage in 2v2s. But it's not just like a one-to-one translation, right? There's teamwork, there's communication, and obviously, if you play with the pro like a lot, you're gonna have a better understanding of the game, and a better understanding of your teammate.
And it also opens up the avenue for a lot of these lesser known players to be successful. Talk about, let's say, Nush, who hasn't really been playing in a lot of major tournaments. When he did, he was kind of outside the top 20 or just at the border of it. But in a team game tournament like this, a lot of these players could be a lot more successful because, as you said, it's not a one-to-one transition of 1v1 skills to team games.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm excited to jump into this series. This game though. I am curious if Margus is going to open Spearman. It's a little bit weaker, I think, versus the English, just because you can age up so much faster as the English. He might even choose to open up Horseman. I am curious as what he chooses to do here.
We are jumping into game number 4 over here. We have Knusch and ZertoN with the HRE and the English. The map is Mountain Clearing. This was the home map of Knusch and ZertoN, but Matiz and RecoN, having lost the previous game, they opted to play this map, and now they will be using the cold colors with the Mongols and the English. A lot of sheep hold in over here, and as you see the score got flipped at the top. It's a 2-1 lead right now for Knusch and ZertoN.
Yep, Knusch and ZertoN are reading the game, and they're going to the 4th game with very strong civs. Gonna try to close it out here, and Matiz and RecoN, though, obviously want to bring this game to a game 5. This series to a game 5. Now, in the second here, I'm curious whether RecoN is going to go stable or Barracks. Actually, his macro is a little bit strange. He's not even trying to get that 150 wood as soon as possible. He's going to get in a second here, but not that fast.
He's moving towards the boar over here, something that we have seen a lot of in the Elite Classic, especially when you had a civilization like the English. In a 1v1 setting, you do have those English villagers with the bows, so the opponent's villagers cannot really contest that. It's a little bit different in a 2v2 setting, though, especially when you have English out there, when you have Mongols out there. I love to see this from Matiz and RecoN, though, because they do have 2 civilizations that can both be aggressive in Dark Age. So they have the ability to protect this. Even if Knusch goes for a villager pull, even if he goes for a couple of men-at-arms, they have the tools to defend these villagers with.
Yeah, and that's just that food that you don't have to get rid of in the game, right? You're just securing 2k food, or I don't know, however much you get from that boar is resources that not only are you getting, but you're denying from the enemy. And we are going to see the stable coming out from RecoN, so they are going to get some map control with that as well.
Yeah, scout goes down over here for Matiz, the only scout
Ooh.
that he has had. He ran into the TC fire of Knusch. Obviously, English TC fires a lot more arrows, so it's a danger zone to get close to it. He does lose the scout. Luckily for them, this is a small map, so even with just 1 scout on your team, you do have a pretty good vision, but it definitely is something that could hurt in the future.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, especially on this map, you kind of want to always be scouting what your opponent is doing. So it's obviously a very tight map, and having that scout just allows you to see so much more of the map. So not good for them to lose that. If it was the Khan, it would be automatically reproducing as well, but it was the English scout, not the Khan.
Horsemen are out here for RecoN. They are pursuing some of those scouts. Landmark of choice will be the Council Hall for Matiz. Knusch is aging up with the Council Hall as well, and ZertoN is going to be the first to feudal with the Aachen Chapel. Now, where does this game go from here? What do you do, especially with the HRE? Are you thinking about fast castling, or is that too risky against a combination like the Mongols and the English?
That is a good question. I think you could fast castle. It is risky, 100%. You play probably defense, especially with the English has 100% play defense, right? They have to be massing longmen. I think you might need to get out some horsemen yourself here, especially considering the English player is going to need spearmen to deal with these Mongol horsemen. So gonna need to play a little bit more defense than just like a naked fast castle 100%.
Yeah, he's got a nice little compact base. Villagers under the TC are affected by the Aachen Chapel, but the gold mine is a little exposed here to cavalry, possibly. You could see for a brief moment RecoN posturing around the base as well. And it looks like ZertoN will play into a couple of horsemen at least. He's dropping the stable to the north of his base. Longbows yet to be added from either side, actually. In fact, Council Hall is just now being finished by Knusch.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I guess he's getting that tower up first. Very, very nice tower to have. You're going to have that network of castles expanding towards a large portion of the map, right, because it's so small. So a lot of utility being added there. And Knusch is actually deciding to go into some spearmen himself. So if Matiz decides to go into only Longmen, he will have that advantage over Knusch.
RecoN is the last to age up. He's going up with the Deer Stones. No surprise in that department. Now, looks like we will have some horsemen indeed from ZertoN. So as much as it was a question of what exactly the HRE player will do, the other question to ask is, how is RecoN going to play this? Is he doubling down on the horseman in feudal, or is he shifting into something else? What's the plan here for him?
You know, I actually wouldn't even be surprised to see RecoN go Castle Age. It's a little bit maybe risky, but Matiz already has a tower on that board. He's probably getting Romumen, or massing Romumen, and they do have map control for the time being, so he could probably go either mass feudal army or Castle Age. They actually have a lot of flexibility with the map control they have at the moment, I think. And RecoN is going on stone. I wonder if that's just for tower emplacements or TC. Only 3 villages might just be tower emplacements.
Yeah, that would be an interesting idea, especially because you do expect to be raided a little by these horsemen, possibly even by Keshiks. So having that tower defense, especially with the cheaper emplacements, could be a great way for ZertoN to at least alleviate some of the pressure that could be on him.
Yeah, well, ZertoN might be going second TC with that many stone though, or it's hard to tell actually. He had a lot more villages on stone I thought than Matiz did. Yeah, he's going for that second TC. ZertoN is on the gold mine there, so that maybe even secures him to get Castle Age. I think he is, after building this TC, I think he's probably gonna decide to go Castle Age, just so he can secure that gold.
Second DC play makes a lot of sense if you consider that it hasn't really been a very aggressive game from either side. They are poking around, but it's not like either of them are committing substantial resources into pushing the enemy bases. So it's a very defensive game that second TC could pay off quickly. On the other side, though, you see on this map you have 2 boars spawn in the middle when you play a 2v2. You actually have 2 sacred sites as well, compared to just 1 sacred site in a 1v1 and 1 boar. So there's a lot of value in that mid-map control for Matiz. He is going to have 2 boars worth of food.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the food advantage, but I don't know, I'm liking the position that ZertoN and Nush are in. They have that second TC. They don't have map control, but I don't think they really need it that much. You're playing with Atri and English, right? So you can kind of just put down farms, and it's not that bad for you. It's not optimal, but given the fact that you are up in TCs, I think it's okay.
There's also defensive tower in the middle. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, and ZertoN is deciding to go Castle Age, by the way. He's got a lot on gold, a lot on food. Might go Ragnitz, might go Virgo. I actually think we are probably going to see Ragnitz here, just because you have no idea how close Matiz and RecoN are to Castle Age, so you kind of have to just go safe on that.
A lot of horsemen out there for RecoN. He's yet to really add either Keshiks or he's yet to really start working towards Castle Age, but players are piling up resources, so we will see Castle Ages coming in here. Now, looking at how slow this game is going, which team do you think this favors?
I honestly do think it favors ZertoN. RecoN is building, like, how many horsemen? He has 15 horsemen, and he's really hasn't done that much with these horsemen, right? Can't really do much. He can't dive 2TC HRE, so... yeah, he's just kind of idling 15 horsemen and not doing that much with them, so...
There's a Ragnitz Cathedral on the way. You do have 2 relics guaranteed right next to your TC. An additional 2 relics are also available right next to your teammate's TC. So, compared to how the Ragnitz Cathedral pays off in a 1v1 on this map, the value is even higher in a 2v2.
Yep, I mean, they're not going to be able to secure those middle relics, but you can secure the relics on your opponent's, your teammate's base, right? So, it's definitely better than in the 1v1, for sure. For the time being, though, they may be able to stop ZertoN from getting these relics, but I don't think that's that much of an issue. You just kind of, like, wait to get knights, and then you get these relics, so... not a rush to get the relics anytime soon.
Looks like Horsemen will get the pick on the tower. There is some nice bounty for them. But you could see Vodka pointing out just a moment ago how RecoN is still piling up resources for Castle Age. ZertoN is already up. He's picking up the relics right next to his DC as we speak. And he's going to start working his way towards some knights. Knusch yet to start aging up. You see there is a prelate moving out for the relics as well. At least close to the base of Knusch. So ZertoN will be chilling on 4 relics very quickly.
Yeah, and that's going to be a very good spot for ZertoN to be in. Playing Atri with 4 relics on Mountain Clearing just allows you probably... I mean, you could go Imperial, you could just Mass Siege. Yeah, it definitely leaves you in a pretty good spot, I'd say. RecoN going up with Steffadale himself, so not that far behind.
Oh, I love this though. Look at this. White Tower in the middle. This is something that has been in the making for a while by RecoN and Matiz. They do want to secure both of those sacred sites, fortify this middle area, and possibly even start the sacred site timer. So it's going to be interesting to see how ZertoN and Knusch respond to that. But they do have a strong economy. And if ZertoN opts to go for a fast Imperial here, they could have access to bombars to easily take down the White Tower.
Yeah, the White Tower does put ZertoN and Knusch on a timer if they do start hitting that Sacred Site timer, but you're exactly right. If ZertoN can get that castle in Imperial Age, they should be able to deal with it pretty well.
Yeah, longbows are buffed over here on both sides. Cavalry has charged in. Cavalry numbers looked a lot better for RecoN's team, but he's the one to bail first. They just wanted to buy some time for those villagers to finish the landmark, and they do just that. ZertoN, as you said, he kind of needs to get to Imperial to unlock the heavy siege, and there is going to be a White Tower as well from Knusch. Lovely position, just close enough to one of those sacred sites to have the ability to contest it, to have that supporting firepower. And it will make it much more difficult for Matiz and RecoN to be able to maintain control over both of those sacred sites.
Yeah, probably not necessary for that White Tower, but a nice thing to have, especially when you're ahead in Eco. Knusch and ZertoN have more villagers, plus they have relics, so maybe not needed, but probably a safe choice to carry out the rest of the game.
Nice little loop around here. Has 3 knights involved as well, does ZertoN. Nice quick reactions by Matiz to pull off the villagers from the gold. There is some idle time, however. And the other thing I'm noticing right now is that relics haven't really been gathered on this side of the map, so that's definitely a massive advantage as well for Knusch and ZertoN. Getting some good raids going, a couple of villager picks go their way. But they also do have a villager lead. Look at that! Longbow's also getting a good angle, picking some vills. Now they have 20 villagers of a lead, plus a lot of relics.
Yeah, well, I mean, Matiz and RecoN are going to end up getting more relics, and they will get the sacred sites, but it's a lot after ZertoN has already picked up his relics, and they have a villager read, so I think it's going to be tough for them to carry out the rest of this game. They really need to pick up these relics soon for that to happen.
Yeah, you see ZertoN is piling up resources. He's also heavy on the stone, so he's getting himself set up for a keep to be dropped close to the middle. He's getting himself closer and closer to Imperial, so he can drop the Pass of Schwabia. That will obviously escalate their eco lead even further, and more importantly, it does unlock bombards. You see he's already setting that up with double siege workshops being placed in the front.
Yeah, and those towers, putting the relic in those towers, it just gives you so much vision, right? Just makes the game a lot easier for you to put it.
Yep, and once you get to Imperial, you could have bombard towers as well. Something that will be challenging for Matiz and RecoN to deal with. I think those are only Feudal Age archers from Matiz. I don't see the silver hats on them. That's a lot better army for Knusch and ZertoN, and they will punish with it.
Yeah, and they're just getting a lot more villager picks, army picks. It's going very well for them. Should be able to back away here as well. Not losing any units. Getting a keep up as well, just securing their base even so much more.
And looks like they have no desire to get to Imperial with ZertoN. He just doubled down on this. Now he's going heavy on the knights, dropping the keep. He's coming in with multiple trebs. And there's a trebuchet as well from Knusch. Eco lead is now steady. Cavalry will move in from RecoN to try and intercept that trap, but there are spearmen nearby and he's going to have to bail on that. He's got the first springboard out already, but This is way too much firepower for him to deal with. The white tower will just disappear.
Yeah, and that advantage that they had, the map control, that is slowly disappearing, right? And that's, I think, that was just the advantage that ZertoN had in the early game. He got that second TC, he got that catch release faster, and the map control is really not paying off that much for them.
He's also building some stone walls to prevent the spring oats from having a line of sight on the traps. Makes it much more difficult for Matiz and RecoN to hold this. Technically, there is a sacred site countdown going on, but there is still 9 minutes on that timer. It's very far away for RecoN and Matiz. RecoN now will try to swing in from the right side, but once again, reactions are quick from Knusch, and those longbows are just massacring this army right now. This is really not a fight that RecoN can take.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting absolutely no value with these units. In fact, he's losing most of them. Well, not most of them, but a lot of units, right? So, and these stone walls are kind of pain in the ass to deal with this when you're the spring old pile.
Sacred sites are still being held by Matiz and RecoN though, but the timer just feels way too long. It's still 8 minutes left to go. Now you have castles firing on them as well. That keep is going to be buffed by a relic, which means that the range is larger. It just makes it much more difficult for Matiz and RecoN to get close to those sacred sites. And there's also a raid coming in from the Knights. Once again, no gold miners to be found actually. Most of the villagers here from Matiz are just chilling under the DC idle, and the rest of them have been sent on wood. So much value to be found though for the Knights.
Yeah, ZertoN playing this very well. He's really, I mean, they've really cut off Matiz's like eco. Like he's repairing the white tower with 8 villagers. That's very costly, and that is not. You're not protecting the sacred sites with the white tower that's almost dead. It's not gonna happen.
Nah, momentum is heavily in the favor of ZertoN's team now. You see Kashyyyks have been dispatched to deal with those raiding Knights, but the damage has been done. Matiz and RecoN combined for 84 eco against 140. They will lose the sacred sites. Push continues on. Now it's a 2-1 advantage for Knusch and ZertoN. Matiz and RecoN opted to pick the opponent's home map to play in game number 4, but it looks like this map is also working a lot better for Knusch and ZertoN. They were down 1 game after game number 1, but they are getting closer and closer to securing 3 in a row and moving into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and I think Knusch and ZertoN just had a much better game plan than Matiz and RecoN. Matiz and RecoN getting that early game map control, but really not translating it into anything, right? They got the bull, and that was nice, but yeah, just not enough.
And with that, we will have our second quarterfinalist team. Knusch and ZertoN rally for game number 2, 3, and 4, win 3 straight, and move on to the quarterfinals. Very convincing games from them. Team chemistry showed well. RecoN and Matiz had some interesting ideas. We've said that for multiple games, but some of them just didn't work out, and in the end, they fall 3-1.
Yeah, some really good games. Especially the first game, RecoN and Matiz showed how good they were with Cav, but they really couldn't translate that win into to some more wins. But some great games though.